judgment, just real talk. This is the Apology Accepted podcast. The views expressed on the Apology Accepted podcast are those of the host and guest and do not reflect the views of any affiliate organization or individual. The content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. For personal, legal, or emotional matters, please consult a qualified professional. By continuing to listen to this podcast, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Apology Accepted podcast. I am your host, Latisha Monique, and this week we're going to be navigating relationships. We're going to be discussing healing from toxic relationships. So, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even family ties, toxic relationships can leave deep emotional wounds that take time to heal. But recovery is possible. And today, that's what I want to discuss. How are we going to rebuild our trust, set boundaries, and rediscover our own self-worth after leaving and navigating through a toxic relationship? So if you ever struggled with letting go, finding closure, or learning to love yourself again, this episode right here is for you. Let's dive in. Recognizing what could be a toxic relationship. What does that look like? What are the signs of a toxic relationship? A toxic relationship can take many forms, and it's important to recognize the warning signs. We have emotional toxicity, we have mental toxicity, and we have physical toxicity. Now, a few examples that I've researched or looked up or been through, because again, I'm talking about me. So a few of my examples for emotional toxicity is constant criticism, belittling, or humiliating from your partner, guilt tripping, or making you feel responsible for their emotions, not your emotions, but making you feel responsible for their emotions, withholding affection or silent treatment as a form of punishment. And this one right here, I love and I hate, because this happens so much that most people don't even recognize that this is taking place to them. And a lot of people don't realize that this is something that they are doing to others if they are the toxic one. And to be fair, everyone have played that role of being the toxic partner. So that's just to be fair. But this one right here, gaslighting, oh my gosh. This is a big one. Gaslighting is making you doubt your reality or feelings. Like, you could have this feeling and someone will gaslight you to make you doubt that what you're feeling is not really real. Like, why you tripping? Basically. So that one is one that is definitely used so often, where we as individuals sometimes we don't even recognize that is a sign of emotional toxicity. Now, mental toxicity. I have a few examples of that as well. So, making you feel like you're never good enough, isolating you from friends, family, or support systems, creating a constant state of stress, fear, or anxiety, controlling your decisions, actions, or even your thoughts. Now, this is one where some people might say, girl, we is not on a Lifetime movie. But this is some people's actual reality. You know, isolating you from friends, family, or support systems is actually a thing. You don't even know that this is what's taking place, or even you don't realize that this is the intent of the person. For example, for me, I know personally I experienced the whenever I made plans with friends or family, um, it was always, oh, well, I had this for us to do. Oh, I thought we were going to do this. And it was always another something that took me away from my friends and family. And it started happening so frequently. But for me, I liked the fact that, at the time, because it's not my story now, but at the time, my partner was like, I like the idea of, oh, you planned something for us. Oh, we're about to do something, and this was your idea, and come on, carry it out, whatever. But what I didn't realize is that when I did not have plans, when I did not make my own plans, they did not have no plans either. It was only until I said, hey, me and my friends about to go and do X, Y, Z, or me and, family about to go and do X, Y, Z. Now all these plans come a place. Oh, now, you got all these great ideas. So that's a form of starting that trend of isolation, creating a constant state of stress, fear, or anxiety, putting you in a place where you're just always stressed out. My example is, I was a young mom, so responsibilities was on 1,000, okay? And I formed bills for myself, and we had bills together, and it was just always a fear of, oh my gosh, what I can't pay. Oh my gosh, what I can't get. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough money for. And it just kept me in this stressful state of mind. It kept me in this fear state of mind. And anxiety was super high. My anxiety was through the roof. And at that time in my life, I wasn't getting therapy. I I even told myself I didn't even have time to even seek therapy and help to try to help me deal with some of these emotions that I was feeling. But that was just all in my mind. That was all the game plan. It was the game plan to keep me right in this state so I can stay in this bubble where now the control was easier. Because remember, I said controlling your decisions, actions, and even your thoughts. But once you are already in this state of mind, controlling you is very easy. That ain't hard at all. Once you right there where they need you to be. And so let's talk about physical toxicity. Any form of physical violence, including hitting, pushing, restraining, intimidation through physical presence, or destroying of property, controlling where you go, who you see, what you're doing, using physical affection or threats as a mean of control. All of those I have experienced. I was in a I was in an abusive relationship for years. And I didn't speak on it. I did not speak on it because I was raised, I'm an 80s baby. I was raised, in my household, what goes on in your house stays in your house. Period. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You do not discuss on the outside what is taking place on the inside of your home. And that was just the bottom line. So with me growing up with that, I just never discussed it. But all of these, before the physical abuse came, it was definitely those prior flags, red flags, that I just did not care to look at. Because most time physical abuse is not the first form. That's not, normally, normally, the physical is actually the last thing, because everything else has worked up and we might have just missed the signs or didn't see the signs or ignored the warning signs. And a lot of times when we think of abuse, we only think of physical. We don't think of emotional abuse. We don't think of mental abuse. We only think of physical. So we miss all of the other signs leading up to the physical abuse. And so I didn't miss the signs. I was very aware of the signs. I just did not speak about it. Why? Because what goes on in my house stayed in my house. Period. Now, the cycle of manipulation and control. Many toxic relationships have a cycle that keeps the victim trapped. You have the honeymoon phase, where a person may act loving and apologetic and promise to change. They shower you with affection to keep you invested in the relationship. Then you have tension building. Small conflicts start to arise with increase in criticism, passive aggressiveness, or withdrawal of affection. You may feel like you are walking on eggshells. You don't know what to say, when to say, how to say it. Do I say good morning? Do I not? Do I say hey? Do I not? Do I say, how your day? Do I not? You have the explosion phase. The toxicity escalates into verbal abuse, emotional abuse, manipulation, or even physical aggression. Things start coming up in arguments where you kind of hidden below the belt a little bit. You kind of, you may had a conversation in so just confidence of you talking to your partner. And then in an argument or in a disagreement, they take your pain or your love for something or someone and use it against you. Now, that is, man, when that happens, it is a hit that is so hard because, again, you confide in your partner with certain pieces of you, certain pieces of your family, even certain pieces of maybe your friends. And then for it to be used in a negative way, to be a blow, and a low blow at that, it's hurtful. Then you have the apology and reconciliation. The toxic person apologize or make excuses, blaming stress, anger, or external factors. They promise it'll never happen again. It will never happen again. It will never happen again. and then time tells. It's not the fact that it will never happen again. It's just how long in between time will it happen again? Will it be 2 weeks, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 65 days, 5 months, 9 months, a year? But one thing about these type of situations is, one thing is for sure, if both parties, because we can't just, I'm not just gonna put this on one person. If both parties cannot agree to get professional help, then the cycle will repeat itself. It's just a matter of time. The question is, when? Now let's talk about how toxicity impacts self-esteem and mental health. Again, being in a toxic relationship can have long-term effect on your well-being. This includes low self-esteem, anxiety and depression, loss of identity, fear, difficulty trusting others. All of this plays a part in who you in a relationship with. Isn't that something? Oh my goodness. So yes, low self-esteem. You start believing that you are unworthy of love or happiness. It's one of those things where you may start to question yourself. I know I did. Again, young mom, and like all of these, I had a lot of thoughts like, okay, if this relationship is over, then what? Where do I go from here? What does my next relationship look like? Will I even be able to get into another relationship? I'm out here barely making it financially. Then I have a child on top of that. Like, what? Because getting my hair done, getting my nails done, getting my feet done, like all of the things that we do to pamper ourselves for self-care, I was not able to do. Every last single dime I had went into bills and child. I mean, I barely had money for gas to get back and forth to work. I worked about 25 minutes from my house, 30 minutes in traffic. So, yeah, it's tough. It is tough. And that definitely can play on your self-esteem. This was before my lock days. So, I locked my hair. I forgot what year it was, but I think my oldest daughter was like 1 or 2, something like that. But prior to that, yeah, ponytail it was. And I had a ponytail for years, okay? Yeah, that plays a part on low self-esteem, because you want to do these things. You want to go and get your hair done, and you want to go get your nails done, because these are all the things that make you feel pretty. Well, me. I'm talking to myself. Make me feel pretty. And I wasn't able to do those things. So low self-esteem was definitely a thing. Anxiety and depression. I was diagnosed with severe anxiety and depression in 2010. I think it was 2010, because that's the year my youngest daughter was born. And I remember saying, severe? And my therapist had this blank look on her face. And she said, yes. And so we kind of just stared at each other. And of course, she gave me the rundown on the meaning and what that looks like for me, and how I can get through a lot of these hurdles that I was facing. But I'm like, severe? I was still stuck on that, y'all. But nevertheless, loss of identity. Have you ever just lost yourself in a relationship? No? Yes? Maybe me? Um, you feel like you've lost yourself because you're trying to please or accommodate the partner. So everything you're doing is really no, I'm going to say happiness for yourself, but it's just that for the happiness of the other person solely. That's it. That's all. It's whatever they like, their favorite, their thing, their family, their gatherings, it's just them. And even if you're ever asked, have you ever been asked this question? So what do you like to do? What are some of your hobbies? And you cannot give an answer at all. You don't know what you like to do. You don't know. Because I've been there. I've been there before where, I've had my therapist say, all right, so, what are some of your hobbies? Letitia, what are you trying to do? What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? It was like, lady, I don't know. I don't know where I see myself once I leave out your office. Nevertheless, it was then that I realized what is it that I want? What do I like to do? What are some of my hobbies? And my thing is, I got so lost not only in my partner, but in the child that I had. Like everything just revolved around the child and the partner. And it was, all about them, really. And that is no way to live. However, you get comfortable. And that's how we lose our identity, because we lose what we like. We don't know what we like. Oh, whatever you like. What's that? What is that off? Coming to America? Yes, coming to America. I had a coming to America moment. Sorry, but that's how it is sometimes. Fear. That fear of, if I leave, what happens next? What does that look like for me? Will I be able to leave? I can't make it if I leave, and sometimes we start looking at it from a financial standpoint. We start looking at it like, well, I mean, this economy already bad. I can't do this by myself. And what's crazy is that we never know what we can do until we do it. Like, it's just like eating somewhere you never ate before. You don't know if you like it or not until you try it. So I had all of these things just in my mind, in my brain. I used to ask myself over and over and over and over and over again, could I afford to do this by myself? And yeah, the answer was no. Hands down. The answer was no. I could not. But I made myself. And during that time of putting myself out there and making myself do things that I felt was impossible, like paying every last single bill by myself, I developed this difficulty of trusting others. That's still a thing for me. Trusting others. Toxic relationships can make it hard to trust new people, leading to isolation sometimes or fear of opening up again. And because I had a hard time trusting, I I stayed to myself. Why? Because I didn't trust anyone. Now, I've had um, plenty of jobs that I liked, and I was able to go to work, do my job, have coworkers, have fun with coworkers, laugh, become co-worky. Is that a word? I'm gonna have to look that up for next time. Anyway, um, but as long as we were at work, then cool. But I've never invited a coworker to my home. I never invited a coworker like out in my space. In my personal space, you were not invited. Now, I've had many coworkers invite me to birthday parties or gatherings or dinners and things like that, in which I attended. But it was no places where I stayed long, and I had complete control over when I left and when I showed up. And it was never intimate talk. So, birthday party, somebody's birthday you attending, and you able to come with a gift. You able to say happy birthday. You able to sing happy birthday. Maybe have a drink. I never ate any food. Yeah. And so that was the gist of that. It was, I never put myself in intimate moments with coworkers. I never did. I don't have a coworker today who has become, what do I? I take that back. I do. I have one good friend who I call my ace today, who was first my coworker and then became my friend and then became my ace and then became my sister. And that's just my girl. But yeah, I only got one. I only have one because I never went into a job or a career to leave with friends. And that's because of trust issues. I don't know if I will ever not have trust issues. I don't know if I will ever just freely and openly like trust without saying or something. Like I don't know if that's really a thing for me. But again, those that I trust, and everybody else, we get through it. I don't have to trust you. So, like I mentioned before, yes, I was in an abusive relationship for years. And a question that I get all the time is, so how did you leave? How did you overcome that fear of leaving and actually start again and get back out there in them streets, girl? um, well, breaking free and setting boundaries. That's what I did. You know, um, Overcoming fear of leaving is definitely easier said than done. You will not be able to do this overnight. And if you are someone who is in a toxic type of relationship, because not all toxic relationship comes with physical abuse. Now, hear me out. Not all toxic relationship comes with physical abuse. If you are able to identify early and know what it is, okay? But all toxic relationships come with some form of emotional and mental abuse. So understanding where you are in your relationship. But yeah, leaving that is not easy because some people have invested time, effort, energy, and money into our relationships. We are when you get into a relationship, you're invested. That's the point, right? You invested. You not only are you invested in a relationship, but you invested with that person, whoever your partner may be. But you have to understand that your well-being supersedes supersedes your let's say your status, because let's just keep it real, some folks, we be in these relationships just for the sake of saying that we in a relationship. I got my hand raised because that was me. Again, young mom, quote and unquote, I ain't want to be another statistic. Then I realized, hey, I'm already a part of the number of statistics now of young mothers. So, because I'm not married, I'm a young mom. So we run the risk of, being in the situation that I was in, being a single person with a kid. Now, creating a support system and establishing firm boundaries for self-protection, of course, that sounds really good. But again, easier said than done. But these are the things that I had to do in order to break free and set boundaries for myself. Anybody that know me know today, I am big on boundaries. I have been for a while because I realized before that I had no boundaries with no one. Everyone could just invade my space, my privacy, at any given time. And I ain't like that for me. And I had to figure out how do I deal with this? How do I create a space of boundaries and having people understand that these are my boundaries and I'm setting them? And then creating a support system. How do I create a support system with individuals that don't even know what I am going through? What does that look like? How do I even start? Because again, like I mentioned earlier, I never shared that I was in any type of stress or duress in my relationship. Why? Because what went on in my house stayed in my house. And it stayed with those individuals who were inside the home. So no one knew that I was actually sometimes fighting for my life. But anytime I went out in public, I always went out with a smile. I always looked like I was happy. So no one really had the, I guess, notion to say, hey, are you okay? Because I always smiled. I was always able to smile, laugh, talk, chop it up, whatever. So now how do I create this support system? How do I even start that? Because again, I don't trust anybody. So what does that look like? You have to, in order to create a support system for yourself, you have to first identify individuals that you can trust. Because if you don't, then you will not have an effective support system. And I'm not talking about creating a support system of people that you know. And sometimes your support system don't look like family. And sometimes your support system won't look like close friends, your homegirls that you grew up with. But you have to be able to identify what that support system look like for you. And again, easier said than done. And then once you identify your support system, you have to then establish firm boundaries for your self-protection. Because see, by this point, you are out of the relationship. And of course, you're going to get the phone calls, you're going to get the text messages, you might even get the pop-ups, whether at work, school, home, your friend house, whatever. You have to establish those boundaries, because once you say it is enough, then it is enough. And you have to be able to lead with that. You have to be able to stand on what you are setting for yourself. So you don't allow anyone to come in and manipulate your thought of going back on what you have firmly stood on. Now it's the healing process. Learning self-compassion and forgiveness, rebuilding confidence and self-worth, seeking therapy or self-help resources. This is the Apology Accepted podcast. So you first have to, what? Accept your own apology. Know that you've done wrong to yourself. Know that you have the ability to say, you know what? Self, I did you wrong. I'm bouncing back. Slowly but surely. I am going to be able to be a better version of myself. See, we have to learn that self-compassion again. We have to retrain our thoughts to show ourselves some compassion, forgive ourselves, be kind to ourselves, show ourselves some grace. Now, we got to rebuild this confidence thing. What does that look like? What is that all about? Learning yourself all over again. Because the things that you used to like, you may no longer like. The things that you used to do, you may not no longer want to do. So having a time where you are really getting to know yourself again. Because in order for you to be in any relationship, and in order for you to show anyone or teach anyone how to treat you, you have to first know how to treat you. Because how you treat you is how everyone else around you will treat you. So you have to understand that you are important. So you have to know that you are important enough to know that, you know what? I'm rebuilding my confidence. I'm rebuilding my self-worth. I am getting into spaces and places where it's going to benefit me. Okay? Because that's not selfish. And guess what? And even if it is, so what? Because sometimes we have to be selfish with ourselves. We can't just give ourselves out to every and anybody. So we have to take these moments in rebuilding our confidence, understanding what that looks like for us, because every process for each individual will be different. How I did it and what I did might not be how you did it or how you do it. I give examples from my own personal experiences only to give an idea of this is an option if you haven't thought about it. So you can take that tool and use it if you need to. You might like it, you might not. But that get your mind turning in a place where you now identifying, I'm taking these steps. right? Seeking therapy or self-help resources. Again, I started therapy really hard in 2010. And let me tell you guys something. I've been through several therapists. And just because you picked one therapist don't mean you have to stay with that person. Okay? Understand that if and when, or even if you already have started, therapy, you have to get to know them like they're getting to know you. And if it's not a good fit, then you move on. We have to break the cycle of staying in places and in spaces that no longer benefits us. Again, I went through several therapists before I found one that I liked, that could work with me, that I felt like I was getting what I needed, because I needed more than just you sitting there looking at me and probably doodling or making your grocery list. No shade, but you have to figure out what works for you. All right. What else? Self-help resources. Somebody might say, you know what, right now, therapy, I just don't have time. Because remember, I told y'all, I said that to myself before. I don't have time for therapy. Self-help resources is also a start. And we have to start from somewhere. And that might look like reading. That might look like journaling. That might look like listening to the Apology Accepted podcast. Whatever it is to help you gather your thoughts, being able to come up with a plan, creating a space that is just for you, all of these things are helpful. It's helpful for your process in getting through this. Now, moving forward with healthy relationships, recognizing red flags in new relationships, cultivating self-love before seeking new connections, building relationships based off mature respect and trust. And one thing I have realized is that a lot of our relationships, sometimes we get in these toxic relationships because we we got in them for silly reasons and expected them not to be toxic. We the people. Yes, we. I'm including everybody. We sometimes, we just be so foolish and so blind sometimes that, once you can step outside of the foolery, you able to look and be like, girl, just stop. Ain't no way. Okay. But I look at it like this. If I didn't go through some of the things that I went through, I wouldn't be able to share stories with my daughters and my sons, to help them understand maybe what not to do. And the reason why I said maybe is because just because you share don't mean your adult children will follow what you share. It don't necessarily mean they're going to take your advice. I pray that my children take my advice. However, this is their life and their journey. And so, sometimes, as my grandmother used to say, a hard head make a soft. Okay. Well, so I went through what I went through, so I'm able to be of a support for others. And that's just how I look at it. We recognizing these red flags in new relationships. We are. And we're not making excuses for these red flags either. Because see, sometimes we've healed from traumas in spaces of our lives, and then we get with people that may have not had that opportunity to heal, and we stay, and a lot of red flags form, and it is just look like a circus. All the flags are out and we still stand. We're not doing that in new relationships. We are cultivating self-love before seeking new connections. We are out here, we are out here just being totally 100% selfish before connecting with any other person. That's what we're doing. We're doing everything that we want to do for ourselves, whether that's traveling, whether that's buying a bag that you always wanted, buying the shoes, going shopping, getting your head up, whatever it is. We are cultivating our self-love first. No shade, but we doing what we want to do for us first before connecting in these new relationships or going out there or putting ourselves back out there on the market. Building relationships based off mutual respect and trust. Because see, that last relationship, yeah, I was only in it because I had a baby. Mm-hmm. And when we say stuff out loud and we understand, okay, this is what it was, and we both understood the assignment at the time, and it was like, okay, well, we really didn't want to be together, but now we got this baby, so all right, let's try. But that, Get Out. What was that movie? Get Out. No, but sometimes it can work. And somebody that's listening to this might say, well, it worked for me. And that is great. Whoever you are and your in the beginning toxic relationship turned into a happy ever after, and you guys are just doing the damn thing right now, shout out to you. Because everyone can't progress together in relationships. See, that takes progression together. Both parties are identifying there is an issue. Let's fix the issue together because we want to stay together, the both of us, for the better of us being one together. That's not everybody's story, but that is some people's story. And for those who it is, congratulations. Because it's very few of those relationships out there. So yes, respect, 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 respect. I cannot say this enough. If you do not respect yourself, then it's going to be very hard for someone else to come in and just give you and show you the respect that you don't even show yourself. Trust. We got to work on that. I say we, I got to work on that. I'm still working on that. Me and my husband celebrated 20 years last December. Not last month. Dang, this February, January, 2 months ago. Did I have to count? Whatever. And even in our process of our years, we have went through and had our own speed bumps. But again, everything that we've been through, coming out on the other end, we did together. And I'm still, that trust thing is definitely something that will keep you from being in such a relationship. But we got to work on that. We got to work on that. I will say this. Anything that is worth having is worth fighting for. However, both parties have to be included. Both parties have to be fighting for the common goal of the relationship. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. Healing from a toxic relationship is a journey, not a destination. It takes time, effort, and self reflection. But you're not alone. Surround yourself with positivity. Seek help when needed. And always remember that you deserve love, respect, and peace. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who may need to hear it. Until next time, guys, take care and keep prioritizing your healing. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Apology Accepted podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked some growth for you. Be sure to subscribe and share with others who might need this reminder too. Until next time, you all, remember, healing starts with a simple apology. Take care.